This 2001 A Space Odyssey monolith of a water bottle that you see in front of you is the stainless steel airup bottle, which is no longer sold on their website, by the way. It came with 3 pods. I think they were the cherry flavor, and it was $65 at the time of purchase. I did not purchase this. I received it as a gift. Not from airup. This video is not sponsored, and I have never been contacted by them before. I'll go ahead and prove that by saying that I don't recommend this bottle. For one thing, it does not exist anymore. The bottles on the website now have a completely new design with these leak-proof locking lids and a button to release it. I guess in response to the, frankly, really dumb complaints people have made, but I'll get to that in a second. There are cheaper bottles out there. This bottle has only one crushing design flaw as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't fit in standard cup holders. It's got this rotund bottom, which was my nickname in high school, by the way. Finally, the airup pods are also not for everyone. If your taste buds have been burned by years of drinking thousands of grams of sugar in a day, you probably won't be able to taste the difference at all. Many people don't really taste anything, or they taste bad stuff just due to the way that the airup pods work. The other thing that you should know is that airup is not the topic of today's video, in full at least. I will be talking about airup because it's necessary to make the point that I'm going to be making. I watched a video by Antoguino, I guess, entitled YouTube Sponsor Scams about a year ago, in which he highlighted specifically the following: Manscaped, an electric hair trimmer company; airup, the not topic of today's video; Fume, a little breathing tube with some essential oils in it to make air taste better; Gamersups, caffeine aimed at gamers; and he also mentions, briefly, BetterHelp, probably the only product on this list that should actually be defined as a scam. Let's break it down with the only product I have direct experience with. Is airup a scam? Well, in terms of the bottle's construction quality argument, I would say definitively this is foolishness incarnate. The leakiness that is brought up by seemingly every single reviewer of airup, but seem to first and perhaps most prominently be brought up by Hypotech, is a complete misunderstanding of the way that the bottle was designed. There's a little lip at the top of the straw here that water can flow through if you turn the bottle fully upside down. While this is not necessarily a good thing, it is the bottle working as intended. The design of the straw is to allow air to flow in through this hole so that you may receive the air mixed with your water as you drink. If this hole were not there, the bottle would actually not work in the exact same way that people claim it does not work. Furthermore, I don't find that a leaky water bottle is necessarily uncommon or even a sign of bad design, unless the company advertises that their bottle is leak-proof. To answer this question, even though the products were removed from the website, I went to the Wayback Machine and went to December of 2023, which is right around the time that this bottle was bought. And indeed, if there is any mention of leak-proof technology on any of the bottle's product pages, I could not find it. I've even seen people in YouTube comments say that the stainless steel bottle actually says that it will leak when you turn it upside down, but I wasn't able to find this either. So by the nature of the fact that the company is not advertising that they are leak-proof, I don't know why you're expecting it to be leak-proof. If it was leak-proof, they would tell you. If it was not, they have no need to tell you that it's not, because not all water bottles are leak-proof, and in fact, the ones that say nothing about leaking are usually not. Here's a couple examples. Here's my wife's sort of Stanley knockoff. If I flip this thing over, it's gonna leak. Maybe not as bad as the airup, mind you, but it also doesn't have certain technological necessities it has to hit in order to provide the experience that it is trying to provide. On the other hand, here's my wife's Brewmate. This is advertised as being a leak-proof bottle, and it is correct. It does indeed not leak as long as you set it to the locked position. Once you open it, it will still leak because it's, open to the air so that water can get through the straw and into your mouth. There are plenty of options out there that are leak proof and still drinkable at the same time, but this is not even trying to be one of those. It's not even pretending to try to be one of those. You will also find that if I screw this top on, guess what? Now it is completely leak proof. So you still have that option if you want it, which is more than I can say for Stanley knockoffs. If you are looking for something that, you can drink out of, it's completely leak proof, you could throw it in a bag, maybe it's a little smaller form factor, you could go with something like this. This is one of my toddler's, it's not a sippy cup because it's just a straight up straw, but it is totally leak proof even in the straw. It's a little difficult to drink out of though. But maybe this is more your speed. Otherwise, in terms of the bottle's construction, the stainless steel bottle, at the very least, I've never had one of the plastic ones, is mostly fine, if not with some baffling design choices like the wide bottom that doesn't fit in standard cup holders. In terms of the argument regarding the flavor, some people, like I said earlier, do not like the flavor. Some people can't taste it at all. Sometimes the flavor lingers in the bottle in a weird way. That is one complaint that I personally have. Most of the flavors that I have tried have been cromulent, if not good for me personally, and the few people I've had try some of my favorites have echoed the sentiment, even if they have no intention of ever buying one. There is this sort of echoing sentiment in many of the product reviews, I'm putting that in quotation marks, in which they expect the flavor to be stronger, I guess. I don't really know, again, where you're getting that because airup doesn't claim that it's going to be very strong. In 2023, their website said, airup isn't juice or soda and we don't taste like it either. Instead, we'll subtly flavor your water just enough to make it your new favorite beverage. You're welcome. And then the modern website says something similar. It's a gentle touch of flavor, not an overwhelming wave. Imagine it as a cool, distant cousin of your favorite soft drink, minus the nasties. With just a subtle hint of yummy aroma, water becomes magically more exciting, all thanks to Scent Taste trademark. I really hate reading websites like this. Anyway, so at no point over the last 2.5 years have they claimed that the flavor is like super intense or anything. So if you got it expecting soda levels of flavor or even sugary mix-in drink sort of levels of flavor like the Asher show did apparently because he compared it to like some sort of sugary mix-in that he poured into water.
It's like $3 for, what flavor is this? Fruit punch.
Then I don't really know what to tell you. Maybe you are getting scammed because you are not reading the website. Now, in terms of the subscription argument, which people always like to bring up, that this is, drinking water with a subscription, that the company figured out how to, get you to get a subscription for drinking water. This also comes from a complete lack of understanding of the product and how it actually works. It's, first of all, objectively false. There is no subscription here. When people talk about the water bottle with a subscription, what they don't understand is that you do not have to have a functioning AirPod, that's copyrighted by Apple. You do not have to have a functioning airup flavor pod on your bottle. I spent most of 2024 with a single pod that was completely flavorless, just sitting there doing nothing. And at that point, the water bottle works the exact way that you would expect it to. It's a water bottle. You drink water out of it. I don't know why that's so complicated for people to understand. Maybe the website doesn't make it very clear. Maybe they don't want to make that clear because they want you to continue to buy pods. Of course they do. That's probably a lot of how they make their money. But again, you don't need to constantly buy these flavor pods. You just leave the ones that are empty. If you don't want a new one, just leave the ones that are empty, or you can't afford new ones, just leave the empty ones on your bottle and it'll be fine. You're not going to die. It's not going to mold, at least not in my experience, as long as you keep your bottle generally dry. In fact, I've had this bottle, like I said, since December of 2023, received it as a Christmas gift, and I have never spent a single penny on it myself. Ever since then, I have received more pods, but only as a gift. I have never bought more pods, ever. It's not necessary. It's not a subscription. It's not necessary. That is just a complete failure of an argument. It doesn't work because it's not true. However, like I said at the beginning of the video, this video is not about airup because this video is about the word scam. Even if all of these things were objectively true, that the bottle is poorly constructed and way overpriced for what it is. The flavor doesn't really work, and you are forced into some sort of subscription that keeps you buying airup pods forever. Even if that was all true, that doesn't make this product a scam. Just because you don't like the food at a restaurant does not make that food a scam. That very same food being overpriced also would not make that food a scam. However, let me tell you what a scam actually is. I ordered a 3060 off Amazon back in same year, 2023, before AI ruined personal computing, received a tempered glass lens for a phone I don't own. That's a scam. That is objectively false advertising. There's no arguing that. That's definitely a scam. So, what of the word scam? Why am I bringing all this up? Well, even as far as like the recent few months, I've seen videos pop up talking about how airup is a scam, as if we haven't already heard all the same trite, contrived arguments that I just brought up. Many words we use on a daily basis are flippant and basically meaningless. No one has reverence for the word sandwich, let's say. If you show up to a party that said there would be sandwiches and there were only hot dogs, you would at least be momentarily confused, because despite how hilarious it is to think that a hot dog by some ridiculous stretch of logic could count as a sandwich, no one actually uses the term this way. Some words or phrases should have more reverence because they can protect people. Something like AI slop has the power to protect people from unwittingly ingesting and supporting content built on a graveyard of copyright infringement and terrible business practices. Unfortunately, this one has begun getting levied at anything that people even have a knee-jerk AI reaction to in this modern-day witch hunt we're in. This is an example of a word losing its meaning, or a phrase losing its meaning, a phrase that could be useful. I would have thought that words like fascism and Nazi would have been good candidates for words that needed to be used sparingly to protect people, but now they're basically just used on anyone you disagree with. Scam, too, has become completely overused to the point that it's lost all meaning. Scam has the potential to protect those that scams target. Impressionable, vulnerable, those with low mental fortitude who were easily manipulated, those desperate for something, whether it's kicking an addiction or saving money or whatever. Instead, now every time I see the word scam, I have to go through 30 hoops of mental Cirque du Soleil to figure out what that person means. Do they just not like the product? Is the product good but otherwise overpriced? Are there shady business practices surrounding the product? If so, is the product still good or is it also bad at the same time? Does the product not do something that it is being sold as doing? Or is the product preying on a vulnerable population? Now let me ask you this. Do you even know which of the definitions I gave should be the correct answer? Do you feel they all should be? If so, what could the word scam even mean? And why is it valuable if it can be that broad and that specific from person to person? The internet's pace of disseminating information is what causes language to be diluted to the point of uselessness, but our language is how we inform each other. It's, frankly, in this modern age of information, how we protect each other. I think we can all agree that influencers should be more careful of the sponsorships they take, not to promote products that are actively harming the lives and wallets of their potentially very impressionable and vulnerable viewership. But if that's true, then influencers should also be held accountable for the effective and responsible use of language so that words still have meaning and can be used to protect and inform those same viewers. What I'm saying here is that you probably shouldn't levy the word scam at airup, a bottle you're not particularly fond of. In the same video in which you give a footnote to BetterHelp, a online therapy resource that actively steals and sells your private health data to companies in order to sell you advertisements for things. That, my friends, is a scam. You signed up to get therapy. And perhaps you get therapy, although they aren't very forthcoming with how differing the quality can be. But you are also getting all of your data sold to data brokers so that you can be in your impressionable, probably depressed, definitely more vulnerable state, sold things that might help you get out of the state you're in. That should be considered and called a scam, not a bottle you don't like.